Shout out to Nostalgic Zone, who I got this screen grab from. You didn't have your duets on, but I just grabbed the screen grab because you basically summed up how I've been feeling, lately. And I think you summed it up well with these four people because these four people died relatively young. And I think the reason that these four people specifically impacted me when they passed away the most because of when I became familiar with them, when I watched their movies, TV shows, listened to their music. I was so young when I watched a lot of these. These were formative year TV shows, movies, actors, actresses, musicians, artists. These were during my very much my formative years. Like watching Jason David Frank as Tommy Oliver on the Power Rangers when I was only like 3, 4, that was a huge deal for me because I was so young and, it was one of my most formative memories of getting up on a Saturday morning and getting my bowl of cereal and going and watching television and turning on the Power Rangers and watching, the Green Ranger saga. Like that was some epic television, and me having like a little baby crush on Tommy Oliver, on Jason David Frank, and me wanting him and Kimberly to be together so much, and it the whole thing, like it was amazing to me, and if you lived through the Power Rangers, the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you understand, watching, Lee Thompson Young as the famous Jet Jackson, in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was a big deal. It was a huge deal. He was one of the first black teen, we had, of course, in the Power Rangers, we, of course, had Zach, and we love Zach, and he's amazing. But then we had Lee, we had Jet Jackson, and he was one of the first teen black spy characters on TV, I guess. And it was amazing to watch. And I've rewatched The Famous Jet Jackson recently. It's up on YouTube if you ever want to watch it. And the show holds up in 2025. And there are so many incredibly amazing episodes that are just so important and so amazing and just so... The relationship that Jet had with his dad, Wood, the relationship that Jet had with his mom, the relationship that he had with his Nana, Miss Coretta, him and Kayla, like, it was just... It's such an important show, and the representation was there. And I've watched this show from the time I was like 7 to the time I was like 9 or 10. I watched the Mr. Jackson movie, the whole thing. It was important, And then you had, Michelle Trachtenberg, and Michelle Trachtenberg was Harriet the Spy for me, Harriet the Spy was such an incredibly important character to me, She made me want to write. She made me want to carry around a notebook and write down my thoughts. You know what I mean? She made me curious about the world. She made me want to become a people watcher. You know what I mean? She was spunky and she was creative and she didn't take no for an answer, and she was curious and she asked questions. And, watching Harriet, have to go through her first heartbreak when Gully, Rosie O'Donnell's character, who I fell in love with at that very young age, 5, 6 years old, I fell in love with her character because she was just incredible. And watching Harriet have to go through that pain of watching Gully leave, and then having to go through that pain of, your parents not really being there for you and not really, paying attention to you and not really understanding you, and then taking away the one thing that mattered to you. And then having your most private thoughts being put out there. Now, granted, girl, you shouldn't have said those things about your classmates. But regardlessly, having all your private thoughts being put out there into the world and having your entire class come after you, Like, watching Harriet just break down in that way, maybe the first time I ever really understood what depression was. And I didn't even understand what it was because I was only 5 or 6, right? And then you had Aaron Carter. And Aaron Carter, you watched him from such a young little age. Like, yeah, you knew about the Backstreet Boys and you knew about his brother, but then you had Aaron Carter. And Aaron Carter was like our Justin Bieber. He was our Jesse McCartney. He was there when we were young. We were only like 9, 10, 11 years old. We watched him on Lizzie McGuire, okay? We watched him, be fawned over by Hillary and by Lindsay Lohan, We listened to his music, How I Beat Shaq, It's just, and to watch the trajectory of how his downfall was, it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And I think the reason that these 4 people specifically, I feel so heartbroken when I found out that they were gone, that they had passed away. And some of these people in less than favorable ways, you know what I mean? And it really breaks my heart because it's like, these were people that helped to shape who I am. I watched these people at a very formative age. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are formative years. Those are formative years when you are trying to figure out who you are, how you see yourself in the world. And I know you're young, you're only a little kid, but you're just trying to like maneuver around this new world that you're being thrust into, You're starting school, you're in kindergarten, you're in first grade. You're trying to figure out what this whole life thing is about. And, it's just, these people had such an impact on my life. And I'll never be able to repay them for that. And I'll never be able to tell them how much they meant to me and how they were so much better for this world, It's just like every single year when it's Lee Thompson Young's birthday, which happens to fall on the first day of Black History Month, every single year I will put out an Instagram post on my Instagram about how Disney Plus needs to put The Famous Judge Jackson on their streaming platform because the show was just so important. And because Lee Thompson Young's memory needs to be remembered. It really does. It really does. And, once a Ranger, always a Ranger. Jason David Frank, Tommy Oliver, the most famous, the most important, the most remembered Power Ranger of all time. Right? All time. Harriet the Spy, the first ever Nickelodeon movie. If it wasn't for Harriet the Spy, we wouldn't have had Good Burger. We would not have had the Rugrats movie or the Rugrats Go Paris. Or we wouldn't have had the Hey Arnold movie or Jimmy Neutron or any of those things, right? Aaron Carter paved a way for so many other, singer-songwriter, pop star types that came out after him, you know what I mean? Whether it was Jesse McCartney or Justin Bieber or any of those other, young little, kids that came out after him. These people paved ways for other people. They were formative childhood memories. And I will always remember them. And I will always honor them being people who impacted my life, even if just through their characters, or even if just through their music and their pop stardom. I will always remember these 4 because they died so young and they were meant for so much more in this world. They really, really were. R.I.P. to Lee Thompson Young, Jason David Frank, Michelle Trachtenberg, and Aaron Carter. We love you. We love you.